Patriots, we have a major development in the fight to end NFA restrictions on suppressors and short-barreled rifles. And it's not good news. Anti-gun cities like Baltimore, Columbus, and Harris County just filed briefs supporting the Trump DOJ's defense of the NFA. That's right, cities run by anti-gun Democrats are now allies with the Trump administration in keeping NFA restrictions in place. Meanwhile, gun owners of America, Silencer Shop, Palmetto State Armory, and 15 states are fighting to finish the job and remove ALL remaining NFA restrictions after Congress reduced the tax to $0. Before we expose this entire situation, smash that subscribe button. We're covering the NFA battle that mainstream media won't touch. Let's get to 800,000 subscribers. Let's break down this constitutional showdown. The $0 tax change, BAC arrow wine. Deal me bring everyone up to speed on what happened with the NFA tax, because understanding this is crucial. Earlier this year, Congress passed the One Big Beautiful Bill, a massive legislative package that included a major change to the National Firearms Act. The bill reduced the NFA transfer tax from $200 down to $0. This applies to suppressor short-barreled rifles, SBRs, short-barreled shotguns, SBS, any other weapons, AOWS. Starting next year, there will be nitrogen monoxide tax on these items. Now, many gun owners celebrated this as a huge win. And it is a win. But here's the problem. While the tax is gone, all the other NFA restrictions remain in place. You still have to register with the ATFs, submit fingerprints, and photos wait months for approval get. ATF permission for interstate transfers face 10 years in federal prison if you violate NFA rules, so the bureaucracy, the registration. The government tracking ALL of that remains, even though there's no tax. That's why gun rights organizations immediately saw an opportunity. If there's no tax, what's the constitutional basis for the rest of the NFA? GOA and allies strike 215 to 345. Gun owners of America wasn't going to let this opportunity slip away. GOA, along with powerful allies, filed lawsuits to finish the job and remove all remaining NFA restrictions. The coalition includes Gun Owners of America Firearms Regulatory Accountability Coalition, FRAC Silencer, Shop Palmetto State Armory Silencer Co. 15 states joining together. This is a massive coalition fighting for gun rights. Their legal argument is brilliant and straightforward. Congress originally justified the NFA under its taxing power. The Supreme Court said the NFA was constitutional because it was a tax measure. But now there's nitrogen monoxide. So what's the constitutional basis for keeping all these restrictions? They're arguing that the NFA's registration requirements, transfer restrictions, and approval system were all justified as helping to enforce the tax. But if there's no tax to enforce, then all those restrictions exceed Congress's enumerated powers. The plaintiffs filed a motion for summary judgment, asking the court to end the case quickly and rule that the remaining NFA restrictions are unconstitutional. This is exactly the kind of aggressive legal strategy we need. Trump DOJ defends the NFA. Here's where things get frustrating for gun owners. The Trump DOJ is fighting against this challenge. Attorney General Pam Bondi and the Trump Department of Justice filed their own motion for summary judgment, arguing that the NFA remains valid despite the zero tax. This is now the third or fourth time the Trump DOJ has actively defended the NFA. They defended it in the Peterson suppressor case, the Rush and Robinson SBR cases, and now this. Here are the Trump DOJ's arguments. Argument number 1. There's still a tax. The DOJ claims that even though the transfer tax is zero, there's still a special occupational tax on manufacturers, dealers, and importers. They say this tax justifies keeping all the registration and approval requirements. But this is absurd. The occupational tax on industry has nothing to do with requiring individual citizens to register their suppressors and SBRs. Argument number 2, Commerce Clause. The DOJ argues that Congress can regulate suppressors and SBRs under the Commerce Clause. because they're manufactured and sold across state lines. But the Commerce Clause doesn't give Congress unlimited power. Just because something crosses state lines doesn't mean the federal government can impose a registration and approval system on it. Argument number 3. The registration system helps enforce the tax. The DOJ argues that the registration and approval requirements form a web of regulation assisting tax enforcement and therefore remain valid. But again, if there's nitrogen monoxides on individual transfers, what tax are they enforcing? The Trump DOJ is desperately grasping at any constitutional justification they can find to defend the NFA. Anti-gun cities enter the FIGHT and, now, it gets worse. Anti-gun cities have jumped into this case supporting the Trump DOJ. Cities including Baltimore, Columbus, Ohio, and Harris County, Texas filed a motion asking the court to let them submit an amicus brief, and the court granted their request. So now these anti-gun cities are officially part of this case, arguing against gun rights. Here's what these cities are claiming. Claim number 1. Public safety crisis. They argue that striking down the NFA would pose a serious risk to public safety and law enforcement in their cities. They claim suppressors, SBRs, and SBSs are especially dangerous, and removing registration requirements would make these weapons untracked and easier to use in crimes. This is fear-mongering. Suppressors don't make guns silent like in movies. SBRs aren't more dangerous than rifles. This is pure propaganda. CLAIM number 2. Officer safety. The cities claim law enforcement relies on the National Firearms Registration and Transfer Record to know when NFA items might be present during investigations. They argue that without this database, officers would operate with less information and face greater risk. But criminals don't register their suppressors and SBRs. The only people in the NFA database are law-abiding gun owners. This database doesn't protect officers from criminals. Claim number 3 will be on the front lines. The cities argue they'll face the fallout if the NFA is struck down, dealing with increased enforcement challenges. Translation: they're worried they won't be able to prosecute law-abiding gun owners for paperwork violations anymore. These cities are transparently defending the NFA because they want to control gun owners. No T, because it actually improves public safety. The terrible OPTICs. Let's talk about how bad this looks for the Trump administration. Not only is the Trump DOJ defending the NFA, but now they're being supported by Baltimore Democratic stronghold Columbus, Ohio liberal city Harris County, Texas Houston area. Democratic control every town for gun safety, Bloomberg's anti-gun group. Giffords Law Center, Gabby Giffords' anti-gun organization. Do you see the problem? The Trump DOJ is on the same side as Michael Bloomberg's gun control empire and the most anti-gun cities in America. Meanwhile, on the other side, you have Gun Owners of America, 15 pro-gun states major. Firearms industry companies, millions of gun owners. The Trump administration is literally fighting against the gun rights movement and with the gun control lobby. This is not what gun owners expected when they voted for President Trump. Why the NFA must fall 8:30 to 10 o'clock. Let me explain why the remaining NFA restrictions must be struck down. First constitutional basis eliminated. The Supreme Court upheld the NFA in 1939 as a taxing measure. If there's no tax, the original constitutional justification is gone. SECOND registration leads to confiscation. History shows that gun registration always leads to confiscation. Look at what happened in New York with the SOF Act, California with SKS. Rifles Australia with their Gun Buyback Canada with their recent bans. Registration databases exist for one purpose: to know where the guns are when confiscation begins. Third, arbitrary restrictions. What makes an SBR more dangerous than a pistol with a brace? Nothing. The NFA restrictions on barrel length are arbitrary and have no basis in actual danger. Fourth, suppressor hearing protection. Suppressors protect hearing. They're safety devices. Most European countries encourage suppressor use. Why is America treating them like dangerous weapons? FIFTA, Second Amendment. The Second Amendment protects the right to keep and bear arms. SBRs and suppressors are arms. The government shouldn't require registration and approval to exercise constitutional rights. SIXTH, privacy rights. Why should the government maintain a database of who owns suppressors and SBRs? This is a massive privacy violation. The NFA's remaining restrictions serve no legitimate purpose. They exist only to control, track, and intimidate law-abiding gun owners. What happens next? 10 o'clock to 11:15. So where does this case go from here? Immediate future. The court will review the cross motions for summary judgment from both sides. The plaintiffs want the NFA struck down immediately. The Trump DOJ and anti-gun cities want it upheld. Possible outcomes. Option 1. Plaintiffs win. The court rules that without the tax, the remaining NFA restrictions exceed constitutional authority. Suppressors, SBRs, and SBSs would be removed from NFA regulation. Massive win. Option 2. Government wins. The court accepts the Trump DOJ's arguments and upholds the remaining restrictions. This would be devastating and would mean the $0 tax change accomplished almost nothing. Option 3. Partial victory. The court strikes down some restrictions but upholds others. Maybe registration is eliminated, but interstate transfer rules remain. This would be a mixed bag. Appeals. Regardless of the district court's decision, this case will be appealed. It could eventually reach the Supreme Court. The timeline could take months or even years to fully resolve. What gun owners should do 11:15 to 12 o'clock if you own or want to own suppressors, SBRs or SBSs? Here's what you need to do. First, support the organizations fighting this battle. GOA, FRAC, and the companies involved need financial backing. Second, stay compliant with current NFA rules. Until a court strikes them down, they remain in effect. Don't become a test case. Third, contact the Trump administration. Let them know you're furious that they're defending the NFA alongside Bloomberg's gun control groups. Fourth, spread awareness. Most gun owners don't even know this legal battle is happening. Fifth, prepare for victory. If the NFA restrictions fall, demand that your state remove any corresponding state-level restrictions. SIXTH. Hold all politicians accountable, including Republicans. Don't let them get away with claiming to support gun rights while defending NFA restrictions. Closing 12 o'clock end. All right, patriots. That's the complete breakdown of the NFA challenge and the disturbing alliance between the Trump, DOJ, and anti-gun cities. Let me summarize. Congress reduced NFA tax to $0 effective next year. GOA silencer shop, PSA, and 15 states sued to end all remaining NFA restrictions. Trump DOJ defending NFA using taxing power and Commerce Clause arguments. Anti-gun cities, Baltimore, Columbus, Harris County filed supporting Trump DOJ. Everytown and Giffords also supporting government position. Case could reach Supreme Court eventually. This is a battle between gun rights advocates and a disturbing coalition of the Trump DOJ, Democratic cities, and Bloomberg's gun control empire. If you found this breakdown valuable, smash that like button. Share with every suppressor and SBR owner you know. Subscribe for updates as this case develops. Comment. Are you disappointed that Trump DOJ is defending the NFA? Should they switch sides? Remember, we cannot let the NFA survive just because politicians are afraid to fight. The constitutional basis is gone. Now we must finish the job. Until next time, stay armed, stay free, and demand that all administrations respect the Second Amendment, not just talk about it. God bless America.